So this is the second attempt on adapting the Dark Phoenix Saga onto the big screen, and again in less than 2 hours. So is this one going to be an improvement? Spoilers ahead, this is going to be my uneducated opinion on the movie X-Men Dark Phoenix. Or was it just Dark Phoenix? I don't really know. This video may jump around all over the place when I'm talking about specifics, but let's just try and start with the basics. This movie came out around the same time of the acquisition of 20th Century Fox by Disney, so it was already in an uphill battle of getting people to care about it, since everyone knew it was just going to be rebooted again in the MCU. Plus it didn't help matters with the movie itself enduring heavy delays, originally scheduled for a release on the 2nd of November 2018 to its eventual release on the 7th of June 2019. This was due to a very long post-production and reshoots, as the director wanted to rework the whole third act of the film, which is a topic that we shall discuss. Simon Kinberg makes his directional debut for this after working as a writer on previous projects such as the sequel to Triple X, Mr. and Mrs. Smith, Sherlock Holmes, a bunch of X-Men titles, and Fan Four Stick. Take those of what you will. So the opening between Charles Xavier and Jean Grey as a little girl I enjoyed quite a bit. Comparing her gifts of that to a pen with what she does with them and saying she's not broken is quite touching. And then the rest of the movie is set in 1992, which makes me instantly think, holy shit, Charles Xavier and Eric Lenscher really do have a bad decade with where they end up in the 2000s. Didn't they both drink from the fake Holy Grail by any chance? This isn't a dig at all about how bad Patrick Stewart or Ian McKellen looked. They've both aged beautifully. I just find it funny how in this franchise both Magneto and Charles Xavier have aged pretty dramatically over such a short period of time. It makes sense for First Class and Days of Future Past being set in the decades they are in, as it is set around pretty big historical moments. And why is this one set in the 90s? I don't really see any point in having this set a decade after the previous one. But let's just get into the good things, and I do think the standouts in the actors are Sophie Turner as Jean Grey, James McAvoy as Charles Xavier, and Michael Fassbender as Magneto. They seem to be the only ones in this movie that actually cares enough of being in it. There are some visual effects which I do quite like a lot, the fire scars going across Jean's face, and even the Phoenix Force itself, making it have this flaming look. I think I also read somewhere that the watch that Xavier is wearing at the end of the movie is this type of Rolex that is quite resistant to magnetic interferences, so that's a nice subtle detail there. And I quite like this quote from Magneto.
"You're always sorry, Charles, and there's always a speech. But nobody cares anymore."
I mean, it perfectly sums up the movie as a whole, really. Okay, it's all cool and everything when you have Magneto and other characters holding out their arms and using their powers, but there is one scene where it is quite unintentionally funny, and that is seeing Michael Fassbender put in so much effort into stop the helicopter that Jean is trying to control. It is incredibly intense. Speaking of unintentionally funny moments, Charles Xavier being controlled by Jean to walk up the stairs, it looks so incredibly goofy, I just can't take it seriously at all. Now let's get on to the things which I do not like about this movie. Before, we've had costumes in other movies and practical effects that have looked really good and I appreciated quite a lot, but in this one it looks rough as all hell. The yellow X's on the jumpsuit and Mystique's makeup looks so basic and lacking any sort of flair. The continuity, I mean, it's shown in this movie that Jean is getting the Phoenix Force when they're in space, which is a part of the comics, so that's pretty accurate in that way, but we've already seen her have this Phoenix Force powers when defeating Apocalypse in the previous one. Okay, maybe I need to brush up on my Phoenix lore because honestly I have no idea at this point. And then the ending with Jean dying or whatever goes against what we see in the future events of Days of Future Past, unless Jean just eventually decides, fuck it, we're all good now, I'm just gonna come back and join you. Yeah, as if nothing happened, that's fine. It just seems as though they've given up on trying to research what has happened before and hoping the audience just doesn't think about it too much, which you don't actually have to think about it too much to notice these pretty big issues. So the villains in this, and wow, okay, here we go. So Ty Sheridan appeared on a podcast before and mentioned that the Skrulls were supposed to be the big antagonists of the movie, but since they were used in Captain Marvel, they didn't want their endings to be anything similar. However, this was later debunked since none of the production crew knew of what Captain Marvel was going to end up looking like. But Regardless, this movie utilizes very boring, shape-shifting, generic aliens as the main villains, and I can't even remember what they're called. Give me a second. Okay, so apparently they're called the Dabari, and that's something from the comics, so that's cool, I guess. I think even Jessica Chastain didn't even know her own character's name until she saw the movie herself. And to have Jessica be a part of this to be so monotone in her performance, it is such a waste. It's one of my biggest peeves in movies and TV shows is to have one of the main characters just be this monotone acting and explaining everything to you like this, and just that's why I'm bad and shit. The Dabari just feel completely unnecessary. Why would you need a group of aliens to be another conflict when you have the Dark Phoenix in this movie? Apocalypse even has some redeeming qualities as a villain, but that is not a high bar that you had to pass, and these were just woefully bad. Quicksilver's big moment in this movie is to just go pretty fast in space with some duct tape, I guess, and then get tossed across the street by Jean Grey. That's great. Jennifer Lawrence ended up getting what she wanted in having Simon come on as the director, and then to not be involved with this franchise anymore by having a character killed off at the start of the movie. That's, again, great. Okay, I'm not a genius when it comes to knowing whether something is written terribly bad or with such profoundness, but these quotes I just wanted to highlight because they stood out to me, and not in a good way.
And by the way, the women are always saving the men around here. You might want to think about changing the name to X-Women.
Oh, fuck off, will you? Okay, I'm not one of those morons that thinks having a female lead is this woke nonsense that is a crime. I mean, Alien, Terminator, etc. are some of the best movies ever made, and they have female leads. That's not the problem. But, I don't know, Quicksilver and Nightcrawler did their fucking part in space, so you're just going to degrade all of their roles in this? Get the fuck out of here with that.
If you touch her, I will fucking kill you.
Oh, you're hard, ain't ya? Honestly, to have the one and only F-bomb of the movie, since this was a PG-13, come at this point in time, it just makes it sound so edgy, and I can't take it seriously in the slightest.
Your emotions make you weak. My emotions make me strong.
Oh god, it's just getting to the point where it's just too cliche at this point, isn't it? So we've gone from having these big epic fight sequences on the top of the Statue of Liberty, the San Francisco Bridge, Egypt, the fucking woods. There is so many fighting sequences that happen in woods in these movies, and now we are having one of the first big action set pieces in trying to get across a street. I was kind of baffled by this whole action scene being set on a small street, and it just seemed like one of those comedy skits that you saw from Laurel and Hardy. And okay, so of all my problems with this, why is this whole fight sequence on the train at the end just feel like a completely different movie? Well, I did mention that the entire third act was changed because of reshoots, but it just turns into this really brutal, over-the-top scene that certainly perked me up when I was watching it from my bored slumber, with Magneto stabbing people left and right and Nightcrawler just turning into a fucking psycho. It's a complete tonal whiplash. And I know they had the guys say,
My kid used to be a fan.
okay, firstly, who asked? Secondly, I don't think someone you've never met saying something like that and then seeing them ultimately die in front of you is a valid enough reason to have your whole motivation slip towards being psychopathic. And I don't know why I put this note here, but there's a moment when Cyclops is going up against Jessica's alien and it just had a Star Wars sound effect. What a pointless note I put in. You're welcome for me pointing that out to you. This classic storyline of the Dark Phoenix Saga was published in comics between January and October of 1980, and with it being called a saga, you'd think the appropriate thing to do would be to make this storyline span over multiple movies, like Infinity War or Endgame. And reportedly they even originally planned for this to be over 2 movies, but instead what we got feels not only a complete rushed movie, but an uninteresting mess. You could argue that the only thing worse than a bad movie is that of a boring one as well, so I guess redoing the entire third act of the movie is a blessing because I would dread to think what the original ending would have been. So the budget of this movie was $200 million, and at the worldwide box office this grossed $252.4 million. Holy shit, that was a massive flop. And like I said, no one really cared about this, and it's just coming to the MCU anyway. I mean, Deadpool and Wolverine is already out as the time of recording this. Still got New Mutants to get through, so we'll get there eventually. And like with every other opinion video that I've done, let's give a look at the trailer to see if it's any good. Okay, that was a interesting trailer. It's not bad. I mean, they showed the good parts, even though they were quite few and far between. And they just straight up spoil Mystique's death, don't they? Because they give so many subtle hints about it at the start, and then just the funeral bit. Very weird. And also, I tell you what, this would have made the movie 100% better. They should have just kept in the...
Tell me how we fix this, Charles. Tell me what to do. I don't know what to do.
Oh, what a shame that was. That's such an iconic line. Why did they have to cut that? But I think that's about it. Thank you everybody so much for watching this video. If you liked it, give it a like, subscribe, ding the notification bell, share around to your friends and family, comment down below what you thought of the movie. Is this as bad as what you could ever believe, or do you quite like it? Also give me constructive feedback of what I could do better for next time. And if you want to see more of me, I'm on twitch.tv/Rizikins there. I'm currently finishing up Bloodborne, and that's an amazing game. I also played games with my girlfriend Jem and my good friend Sorazi. We are doing Chained together, I don't think, and we also play Baldur's Gate 3 together. Hope to see you there. Thank you everybody so much for watching, and take care. Wait, Hans Zimmer did the music for this movie? Well, if it wasn't for the credits, I would never have guessed that.